Okay, good afternoon again, everyone. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend, a good friend of our branch, and a colleague, Minister the Honorable Chantal Munro-Knight. This brilliant, accomplished, and articulate young lady is the minister in the Prime Minister's office. She's an experienced management specialist with a history of working with nonprofit and social developmental industries. The Senator is a skilled project manager, and she is an international trade specialist with a Master of Science degree in International Trade from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. Her PhD is in public sector leadership. Prior to joining the Cabinet of Barbados, Dr. Munro-Knight succeeded Comrade Shanika Roberts-Odell as Executive Officer of the Barbados Medical Cannabis Licensing Authority. Was it that way or the other way around? The other way around, the other way around, yes. And Director of SMK Associates. The latter specializes in policy analysis and development training, workshop facilitation, project management, and project evaluation. In her current role, the Senator has responsibility for culture, sustainable development, technical cooperation, and performance management of the public sector. She also shadows the Prime Minister on Public Sector Transformation Initiative. Dr. Munro-Knight has conceptualized and has managed several projects addressing climate change, mitigation, gender, and civil society participation. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our featured speaker, a young woman who combines an outstanding intellect with excellent interpersonal skills and a pleasant personality.
Good evening, Christchurch East. It's really a pleasure and a privilege for me to be here with you this evening. I count myself as a member of this family. I've been warmly embraced, and I really thank all of you for that. It is, very important when you come into a space that you are not well known, but you are fully embraced. And perhaps I would say that I shouldn't be surprised because of the representative that you have. When I entered Cabinet in 2000, was it 2000? Sorry, I'm now 2020, sorry. Time. It feels like that long. The only two persons I knew in the Cabinet then were Minister Cummins and Minister Humphrey. But I had the fortune of sitting right opposite Comrade Wilfred and colleague Minister. And if you know, of course, you know the representative that you have. One that will instantly put you at ease with a smile. One that will steer you in the right direction. And Wilfred certainly was that person for me, sitting opposite to him. But I've also come to know that while Wilfred has that easy smile and that nature, that behind all of that is also a man, again, of strong intellect and will. Wilfred is the person in Cabinet that when there is a hard thing that needs to be done, is the first person to raise his hand and say, I'll do it. That is the representative that you have. Wilfred is the person that when you need good, strong advice, that although he may appear laid back and you don't think that he is listening, Wilfred is the voice that often, again, in Cabinet and at a personal level, will then say, hold up, let me think again on this. And very often, his advice is the turning point for us to rethink and to be able to reshape very much the trajectory that we are going on. And it is that strong representation that you have within Christchurch East. But it is a strong representation that the team of the Barbados Labour Party today has and gives to this country. And that is important. And this evening, I want to speak to you very briefly about the issue of that strong representation and, more importantly, leadership. Before I begin, I want to apologize to you. I have another event which begins at 7, and it's a thank you gospel concert. Now, there have been some calls, I am told, from my head as Minister of Culture. So you can imagine that if I've been to all of the Cropover events and I don't make it to the Thanksgiving gospel concert that my own division is having, that will then give further fodder. So I'm going to speak very briefly and very quickly, and then, like I said, apologize to you as I take my leave. I want to speak to you about this issue of leadership and what it looks like, so that we are sure that we can recognize it and that we are able to acknowledge it. And it is important to do so, particularly in this context, because there are a number of false narratives that are emerging across Barbados, as we hear people, again, constantly speaking to what they would like to reshape this Barbados Labour Party to look like. And while we continue as a party to take the high road, it behooves us to make sure that we counter the narratives not out of a place of pride, but out of a place of fact about who this Barbados Labour Party is and what we have given to Barbados. And what we have given to Barbados continually is good leadership. What we have given to Barbados is not just good leadership, but transformative leadership. Across the world, and I stay here for a moment to just stress the importance, because sometimes when you have a good thing, you don't always acknowledge it. Sometimes when you have stuff at home, you don't always recognize it and speak to it. In the realm of culture, there is now, particularly across the United States, a move to rewrite and to reframe the narrative around slavery and colonialism. There is a move to replace the textbooks so that they speak to a particular way of suggesting that slaves were part of the colonization process, not only part that we profited and benefited from it. And I bring that example to you to say that we have to be very careful in this Barbados Labour Party, very careful in this Barbados Labour Party, that if we do not continue to speak to our own truth and what we have given to this country, the type of leadership and the type of representation, that we risk the possibility that the next generation of leaders will not understand and therefore be able to defend, but that we will find us in a place where we have to constantly be on the back foot, a place that we ought not to be if we recognize and know who we are. And I say that as well because I believe that we are also in a moment as a country. We are a couple of years away from an election. But we also are a country that have come through, even very recently, COVID, freak storm, hurricane. And as we have navigated that and have rebuilt this country, that we also then face the threats of climate change, and also as well a continual unfriendly international global environment. And it is those things that have also caused me, as I said, to reflect on our trajectory as a party, our trajectory as a people, our trajectory as a nation, and what it takes in this particular context, to continue to forge a nation that will not only survive but thrive. And very fundamentally, I believe that what it takes, like I said before, is not only good leadership, but transformative leadership. There are many schools of thought about the different types of leadership that people can bring. And that notion of transformative leadership has emerged as the best kind of leadership, particularly for small island developing states like ours, that need leadership that combines what I am going to put in my own way, 3 key qualities. 1, intestinal fortitude. Intestinal fortitude. Intestinal fortitude speaks to leadership that doesn't back down when the going gets tough. Intestinal fortitude speaks to leadership that although it may seem unpopular, that there is an understanding that it must be done. And if it must be done, that leadership says, we will go forward to get it done. Intestinal fortitude. But transformational leadership also speaks to that attribute of being visionary. And that notion of being visionary is about being able to see into the future, about being able to lift your head up from the situation of the now, to look to this country, to this nation, and to ask oneself, where will we be in the next 5, 10 years? How will we get there? And how do we start to move to that trajectory today? That is vision. But one of the most critical elements of transformational leadership is that it is people-centered. It is leadership, yes, it has the intestinal fortitude and vision to forge a path. But it is also leadership that is grounded in compassion and that understands that it is people and nation above all else. People and nation above all else. So as we come to talk about leadership, the Barbados Labour Party and what we have given, I would suggest to you that that is the metric by which we have to speak to our leadership and what we have given to this nation. And I would suggest to you that the Barbados Labour Party that we know, the Barbados Labour Party that we belong to, meets those metrics every single time. We meet those metrics every single time. And it is that we have to make sure that we speak to, when I speak to, countering the narratives that are out there with fact. It is this Barbados Labour Party that when we came into power with an economy that was completely decimated, that nobody wanted to be associated with, that nobody would give money to, that one of the first things that we did was to reinstate the right to free university education. That is transformational leadership. And it is that because it wasn't just the act. It was the understanding that by so doing, that we were empowering and transforming the lives of the ordinary black children. People like me, my father, who used to repair cars, with 3 children on his own, self-employed, couldn't afford university. I went to university, I tell people all the time, drinking 1 sweet drink and a biscuit for lunch for almost 2 years. But I persevered because at least I didn't have to pay high tuition fees. That is what the Barbados Labour Party, that is visionary, because we understood that if we could make sure that within our households, that we could have children who were educated to university level and that their parents would not have to be burdened with those high tuition fees. That we would be empowering a generation of future leaders for this nation. It meets that metric because it was about intestinal fortitude, because it didn't look like we could do it, because everything around said we should not do it, because we didn't have it to do it with. But we did it because of that metric that says what? People and nation above all else. People and nation above all else. The Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act, what was that about? I talking to one of what was that about? Enfranchising across Barbados. Giving land to people, 10 cents a square foot. The Barbados Labour Party did that. Why should we be on the back foot with anybody else lecturing us about people and the black man and poor black people in here? We have a legacy, Christchurch East. We have a legacy that we should make sure that we speak to and speak to frontally. And it is a responsibility that we have as we wear, I'm in my yellow and you wear your red, that we say to Barbados, that we say to the narratives that are out there, that we know who we are, that we know the legacy of leadership that we have. Just recently, we passed the Bail Act, for which there was much contention about. Recently, we've put the cybersecurity bill within committee again. Recently, we also as well passed the resolution for the labor clauses. All three of these pieces of legislation with much contention around. People saying we try to stop freedom of speech on one hand. We're taking away constitutional rights with the Bail Act on the other hand. We're pitting labor and private sector against one another. All three pieces of legislation that were about what? Look at the Bail Act. We were facing in this country a situation where you and I did not feel safe within our homes. A situation where the court system, for whatever reason, and there were a multitude of reasons, was hamstrung as it tried to deal with people who were on remand, not on remand, but people who were getting bail continuously and then coming out and committing crimes, committing murders. And the suggestion was that we ought not to take such a heavy hand to addressing a fundamental challenge that this country was facing. Intestinal fortitude of the Barbados Labour Party said we will step up and we will get it done because it is the right thing to do in this moment to ensure the safety and security of the citizens. But I have spoken already in the Senate to this notion of what I call, and I took it from a writer that I follow, about this notion of the single lens. Because one of the problems of the narratives that we have and that we need to be able to counter is that people tend to take a microcosm of a thing, one look at the policy, and would attempt to suggest that it is wrong just on the basis, or is that incomplete or insufficient on the basis of just the one kernel of the thing, without looking at the fact that this government has laid out a comprehensive set of legislation. So we did the Bail Act, yes, but they forgot that we also established in the Office of the Attorney General a minister with responsibility for crime prevention and a national peace program, that we were not only depending on the legal footprint to be able to do that, but that we understood fundamentally that tackling crime is also a social issue. Nobody has to lecture this Barbados Labour Party. Nobody has to lecture us. And that was then how many years ago? We saw it. Intestinal fortitude and vision, and put a remedy to it. That is the Barbados Labour Party. That is what we do. So that under the National Peace Programme, the attempt again is to transform the lives of these same young men and, yes, young women on the blocks within communities through social and development programs. They forgot that we also have the One Family program. We have to be able to strip away the single lens, lest we are also fooled. Strip away the single lens so that we ourselves again understand who we are. Because it's out of that fundamental understanding of those three strands of transformative leadership that the government has developed, as I said before, a full slate of policies, particularly when it comes to social development, that is intended, again, Minister Abrams, child protection. They forgot that. They forgot that is what we are doing as well. So when the calling programs, well, they are talking only about the Bail Act. All of us should have a narrative that says, hold on, that is only one lens. Let's talk about culture for a little bit. I'm going to talk about culture for a little bit, just a little bit. Because like I said, the calling for my head, the calling for the CEO head is the worst Cropover. Yet we had the best and biggest Soca 5.0 that everybody has said was the best show of the season. But I want to say to you that again is a single lens. The single lens through which we view culture and the work that the Division and the National Cultural Foundation is doing. We see Cropover, and we see 4 signal events. We see Kadooment, we see the pick of the crop. Finals, see the same Soca 5.0. And in our mind, unfortunately, that is Cropover. That is the festival. Single lens. And that again is a narrative that we have to be very careful of. What that lens does not show, as I've said before, is the investment the National Cultural Foundation has made in primary schools across Barbados. It doesn't show the investment that we have made to train tutors in costume making so that they then go back into the primary schools, so that all of the costumes that you saw for Junior Kadooment were made in schools by those children themselves and supported by the National Cultural Foundation. Why? Because we start within the school system, because we are building vision. They see the single lens of those events without understanding that the National Cultural Foundation, under the Pink Pen Project, for the first time, supported young women to be able to write and produce music. So all of that music that you are seeing out there, featuring young men, supported by the featuring young women, supported by the National Cultural Foundation as part of what? The Cropover Festival. Developmental. Single lens. We have to strip away the merits of the narrative that is being put in place. That single lens and the criticisms as well don't show the investment the National Cultural Foundation did again last year, that it is bearing fruit when we did not have a Soca Monarch. But instead, we took artists across New York to Miami to all over in order to expose them to the international market. It didn't show the investment that we had in having discussions and bringing in experts, teaching them how to dress, how to present themselves, how to write lyrics. That is investment that is bearing fruit in this Cropover festival for 2024. Stripping away the single lens, people. And I say that to you because very fundamentally, the issue of culture is not just about what we see. It is not just about the parade of Kadooment. But it comes from a place that this government, again, fundamentally understands. That when we talk about social development, that culture is a way for us to be able to lift this society up. That it is a way by which we can create a unity of purpose. That it is a way through its development ethos, again, that those very same young men and young women can see purpose and have creative expression. The single lens. As I close, I want to leave you with a quotation that I found from the Right Honorable Owen Arthur, God rest his soul. And it is a quotation that for me builds on that notion of no retreat, no surrender. Everybody remember that? No retreat, no surrender. Sorry, I got to look for this quote in all of my notes here that I did not follow. I can find it here now. Oh, thank you for that love. Thank you for that love. Thank you for that love. Although I can't find the quote, what Owen Arthur was saying, and he was saying essentially that we need to be able to gird our loins. He was saying at the time that in the context of struggle and adversity, he said that we must come together, gird our loins, and face a task at hand. Face a task at hand with a sense of purpose and a sense of solidarity. A sense of purpose and a sense of solidarity. And if you have not heard anything that I've said this evening, I want to leave you with those two things. A sense of purpose and a sense of solidarity in knowing who this Barbados Labour Party is, knowing the leadership that we have given as a Barbados Labour Party, and being able to speak that truth, not on the back foot, but on the front foot, to confront the narratives, the false narratives that are out there. I thank you, Christchurch East, for having me. Sorry that I have to leave now. Made it short, but thank you so much. Thank you.
We want to thank Minister Chantal for her lovely speech. Want to welcome...
Hold on. I just need to catch her before she goes out your door. Chantal, I just want you to hear this. I enjoy sitting across from you in cabinet and having you as a fellow minister and having lunch with you and chatting with you and having you as my friend. Nothing can make that relationship more special than for me to have you as a fellow MP. I will leave it there. Christchurch East welcomes you.
Want to welcome Conrad Noel Lynch in our midst. And our own former minister, Reginald Farley. The floor is now open for our own minister, Wilfred Abrams, to make his speech.
Thank you. So I was going to speak about something entirely different. But it is appropriate now for me to follow on from what Chantal said, and to tell you some of the things that she didn't say and some of the things that she could not say. Often, if you defend yourself, it doesn't look good. Quite often, you can't speak in your own defense. And it is sometimes necessary for people to speak up and correct the record where that record needs to be corrected. So, she said about making sure the narrative is correct, getting the right narrative. I call that simply telling the truth. Now, we have heard all of the rumblings over the last couple of weeks about worst Cropover ever. They had no vibe, nothing was happening, nobody was enjoying themselves. I do not know if they were at the same Cropover activities that I was at. I don't know if they were experiencing the same time span that I was experiencing. I see a number of people in here who I saw out constantly at multiple activities. And I will tell you this. So somebody was telling me, Abrams, it lackluster, they feeling the vibe, they nothing. And I asked the person, how many events? No, I said, what events have you been to? You might have been to the wrong events. And the person said to me, well, they went to none. So my question was simply this. How you can feel the vibe from on your own sofa, by your own self, watching other people enjoying themselves on TV, and you home miserable? How you can feel the vibe? How you can feel the vibe if you don't leave your house and go among people? If I stand up and dance by myself, when we used to watch the stand home parties from CBC during COVID, you see people trying to enjoy themselves. I mean, they had no choice. You couldn't go and socialize. You couldn't go out with people. So people did the best thing they could do. They put it on Zoom so they could see other people dancing, wait till the camera get on them, party hard when the camera go off them to stop. Right? They did the best with what they had to work with. I had a blast this Cropover. And I can ask some questions. I can do it particularly with people that I've seen out multiple times. Ricky, how was Cropover for you? Selwyn, how was Cropover for you? Alex, how was Cropover for you? Adrian, don't even answer that, you wait fair. I saw you, I know how Cropover was for you. But you're getting my point. How was Cropover for you, Nisha? Good. Lovely. You're getting my point. We had, to me, one of the best Cropovers we've had for a while. We let a couple things and false narratives dominate. If people are looking to find issues, they're going to find issues, right? They will even find issues with the fact that there were no issues to be found, so something must be wrong that they just don't know. If people want to find something to condemn or complain about, they can find it. Not true, and not true. You know, you quarrel with me at least once a week. At least once a week, this lady picks up the phone and calls me to quarrel. Sometimes there ain't nothing to quarrel about at all. But she says she needs to keep me on my toes and keep me balanced. She said it herself. Look, at the ceremonial delivery of the last Kames, Kimar, you were there. That was well attended, well put on. They had the parade. They had the landship, the youth landship organizations. They had the fancy dress. They had all them sort of things. It was well attended, well put on. As that was done, we shifted and went across the road to Independence Square, right? Where they had a concert spanning from A to Z. Must see everybody ever sing a song in Barbados that still alive went and sing then, right? It was rammed. It was rammed. It was well put on. It was fantastic. That started things off. You hear anybody talking about that and how good it was? Pandemonium. Pandemonium. A free, family-oriented thing put on by the NCF for everybody. People rolling there with the coolers. They're rolling there with a packed lunch. They're rolling there with the children and park out. They had about 30,000 people in there. out there was ram. When I came and saw the space, quite past, I like to, people call it malicious thing. It's I ain't setting up. I like to go and see what it look like before I get full. So I passed across there and I thought to myself, wow, that's a real big space. If only a few people come out, they can be shamed. It was ram out. It went off seamlessly. We had pan and more pan, and then pan can't done. You hear anybody talking about that? No, nobody is saying how great a family activity that was put on by the NCF. The Junior Monarch. The Junior Monarch was good. Then young people performed, they outdid themselves. They had one slight controversy, but Cropover and Calypso needs controversy. We need it. It needs it. A Calypso event that goes off without controversy, as far as I'm concerned, is a failure. Right? They need controversy for somebody to sing about in the same competition and then to prep themselves to sing about for the next one. We need it. The Junior Monarch competition went off well. You don't hear anybody talking about how well that went off. We had the old-time Paling Fete. I remember the Paling. One of my very, very, very best friends, she has been my friend for about 25 years. I met this girl by the toilet in the Paling. We were in a long line. We were complaining real bad about somebody who had the toilet locked off. So we all got to talking, and this girl is my friend now, up to now. Actually, I tell you who is Adrian Clark's wife. Her name is Ann Lewis. I met her in the Paling. I met so many of my friends in the Paling. The Paling got memories for me to go back to the Paling. To ease in the Paling, the bar was the exact same place the bar was the last time I was in the Paling. The body selling the food was the exact same place that the body was selling food the last time. That was nostalgic. That was fantastic, and that was a cheap fete. That was a cheap fete. But you ain't hearing how good the nostalgic event was. You're hearing about the finals. Okay, we will accept. The finals had some technical issues. It had technical issues. Did it stop the finals? No. Was there controversy about the winner? No. Were the performances good? Yes. Was Adrian Clark superb? Yes. But people endured the late start and left there celebrating about Adrian Clark. Celebrating about Adrian Clark. And all you're hearing, it started late, they had technical issues. It was a failure on the part of the NCF. People left the finals and went down to 4-day morning. They jumped 4-day morning without incident. Not an incident. Nothing happened. Nothing happened 4-day morning. Thousands of people on the road. And then they had these satellite events that had even more people. No reported incidents. Anybody talking about how good that was? No, they're talking about the finals. Then Kaduma, they don't talk about all the facts. I can call some facts. They had them the big name facts, like Mimosa and thing. Those who went to them, they had a ball. Look at the pictures. Everybody had a good time. Everybody had a good time at almost everything. Then they had like facts like, what that fat name? Splash. And beach house breakfast party. All of them things. Where anybody you ask who went to them events, every event was the best ever. Every event was the best ever. And then we had the Grand Kaduma. People complain about it. They didn't get a chance. They complain about the route too long, the route too short. I don't know how it could be too long and too short. It cutting out people here. It can kill people down the road. Everybody has something to say. At the end of the day, nobody ain't want to go back to no other route. Everybody wants that same route that was decided that we jump on, that people jump on, to be the route again. That was a choice by the NCF, and it was a major hit. The Grand Kaduma itself, the actual jump, was a success. I have never seen that many spectators. They had a record amount of spectators on the road watching the bands. and no incidents. Anybody talking about that and how great that was and the planning that was involved to carry that off? No, they're talking about how it started late. But let me deal with that. So I could tell you because I was involved. When Soca 5.0 was supposed to be coming off, the day, there was a system off Barbados, which Sabu said should veer north. It should veer north. We were keeping our eyes on it. I was getting updates mostly every hour. Carol Roberts was calling me to the point where I felt to block her. All the time, was the latest, was the latest, was the latest? Is this going to affect it? I said, Carol, keep to the plan. It is supposed to veer north. The system was coming, the event started, it was supposed to veer north, it still was not veering. There came a point in time, now lightning came into the picture. It was a bad lightning storm, over 300 lightning strikes per 15 minutes. That was akin to the freak storm. That is about the same intensity, about 300 lightning strikes per 15 minutes. When it got to about 50 miles off Barbados and it had not veered north, the concert had started here. We had an emergency call. It involved, I ain't calling people, it involved the highest down to everybody else. The question was asked, actually, I can call it, the Prime Minister asked the direct question. It wasn't just Sabu. It was Sabu, it was the gentleman from CIMH, it was another meteorologist, whatnot, right? So it wasn't a one opinion. The Prime Minister said, if this does not veer north, is a field of people, is 20,000 people on an open field, surrounded by metal infrastructure, are they in danger? You know, nobody likes to come down on a point, especially when the no was at stake. The Prime Minister, again, went real simple. She said, if this storm passes over and lightning hits down in the botanical gardens, can there be injury or loss of life? And all the meteorologists says yes. With that amount of lightning, if it passes over Barbados and a strike happens in that vicinity, yes, you may get significant injury to persons and loss of life. At that point, the Prime Minister said, I won't hear nothing more. Pull it. The concert has started. But the concern was more for the lives of Barbadians. It was 50-something kilometers off Barbados. At that point in time, the leader had to step up and make a call. And she made a call in the interest of safety. And she gave a directive to Carol Roberts. Shut down that fete now. Control it. Get the people out of there as orderly, as quickly as possible, without causing panic, and let them get home. So all who talking about the NCF could have called this off a long time, no. The first option was to let the fete continue. And you know what? As soon as that decision was made, things veered north. But I don't regret being a part of that decision making, because as easily as it went north, it could have gone straight and had one body got injured. And you hear that we knew there'd be a whole different discussion. So I want people to get off of the NCF back. I want people to get off of Chantal Monroe back. I want people to get off of Carol Roberts back with that. That was a call made above them. And that was a call made with one consideration in place: the safety and preservation of the lives of Bajans. If people think about it, it ain't easy to call off a national event. There's so much at play there. It is definitely not easy to call off a national event when that event has actually started. But it had to be done. So you heard people lambasting us and talking, you can flop the can, bring it back on the can, whatever. Or the decisions, maybe we can't do it. The next day is too short notice. Because the bands on the road, the performers thing, all the performers, by the way, every performer to a man said, we understand. We understand why you did it. And when you put it back on, we can be there, including Marshall Montano. Marshall Montano, I believe, had left Barbados, and we had to bring him back in. But he came back in the Tuesday. And you know what? Things does happen for a reason. That show had so many people. It went off seamlessly. Everybody got to perform. And quite frankly, I think it ended up with more people at this show because it has some, like, people who may or may not live in my house who was questioning the wisdom of going to a show that probably can finish in the morning and then getting back to put on the face and put on the feathers and look good for the road. So you ended up getting the benefit of people who would otherwise not have gone, who came out afterwards. And interesting fact, you know, most people don't want it the night before. Most people that you ask now want it exactly where it is now, the night after. So out of all of that, you can come a new event, last lap, on the Tuesday, which will probably be the most anticipated event for the whole of Cropover. So clap for that. So for all who work to talk knowing the facts, we could just have easily said, you know what, let me scrap that. But we accept that concessionaires would have prepared their food, people had drinks, people had whatever, right? We had to put it back on quickly because while you could refrigerate the food for 2 or 3 days, you can't do it for a week. We had to put it back on in short time. To be able to pull that one back off in 2 days is nothing short of amazing. So rather than being criticized, I believe the NCF and all associated, including Chantel, need to be congratulated for pulling off against all odds. Let me now touch one last thing. As you realize, I got some bees in my bonnet. Kadooment Day. So for all who said that the storm veered off and we ain't had nothing, some of you ain't had nothing, some had some damage. That wind was real high. A lot of the bands, their preparation for going on the road got hampered. Their things got damaged. Stuff got stripped off of the trailers. They had to put themselves back in a position to be able to jump. The decision to delay Cropover was not a willy-nilly decision. The decision to delay Cropover was because a number of the band leaders wanted and asked for extra time because they could not get their bands on the road to meet the scheduled time. I will tell you that some were even talking about postponing the festival. You know that, right? A number of people were talking and saying that the Kadooment should actually be postponed. Chantel was having none of that. Neither was Carol Roberts. In the end, a compromise position was needed. How fast can you get yourselves ready? What we would do, we will abandon the order. We will abandon the schedule. Whoever ready at 11 o'clock can start. And as you get yourself ready, you can slot in and go. So for all who quarrel about the late start to Cropover, there was no choice. That storm the night before caused some damage. It set back things. The fact that everybody pulled together, everybody's mind was on one thing, this got to come off. And although it started late and it ran late, all involved had a blast. I want to compliment and commend all, from the NCF to the band leaders, to the revelers, to whoever, to everybody that helped to pull off a Kadooment, a grand Kadooment on the road, a fantastic spectacle without any violence on the road as well. Are you hearing about that? No. You're hearing about technical issues at the final. My point is simply this. We had these sweet limes. The NCF put on these sweet limes where all the young artists got exposure. That girl, Tion Hernandez, come up through there. That girl she really burst onto the scene this year because she got exposure through the NCF. And look where she ended up. She ended up joint second place, I believe, for Road March, and she came number 2 in the People's Monarch behind Bruce Lee, Almighty, one of our people. That was from the NCF pushing young talent. All these sweet lanes were free, so for all who thought about they couldn't afford to go, if you cared to, they had a sweet lane somewhere near you. It was all about Barbados. If you really cared to, you could have found something to go to put yourself in the spirit. So I don't even want to hear it. I had a good Cropover. Anybody else had a good Cropover? This, despite all the challenges, and there were some challenges, this was one of the best ever. One of the best Cropovers ever. So let me speak now to the true narrative. When people harp on one thing or two things out of 100 things, it means they really ain't got nothing to talk about, and they are nitpicking because they got to say something and trying to claim some degree of relevance. Let us keep our narrative straight. Now, I just want to do something else. As I said, I went away from everything I was going to tell y'all. In keeping our narrative straight, Ricky, I want you in particular pay attention to this because I need you to pull from this. I want us now for the record. Let us know for the record in this meeting, in the last period, I am giving the last period of my address to y'all because I want now for us to set a definitive record of the things that this government has done since coming into office in 2018. You ain't got to call them in any order. All the things you can think of that were impactful, call them out loudly and clearly. We are going to do a list, and we are going to circulate that list and ask people to add to it, because anybody talking about this government ain't do nothing must actually look at that list. They're getting us confused with the last ones. We don't look like them. We don't talk like them. We handle our business in private, different from them. We don't take on strange people to be leaders. We just do it different. So let us know. The floor is open. All you need to do is speak clearly so that they can get it and we can rate it, because this list is coming out. I want this list long. Long, long, long. So I can start it off. Actually, no, I ain't gonna start it off. The floor is open. Please, let us hear some of what the government has done. Yes, ma'am, Nisha. The South Coast, I know the fellow who dealt with that. I know him well. The South Coast sewage problem, Daisy. Massive repairs to the educational plant. I saw some, yes, sir. Shh. Botanical gardens. All you need to do is drive through Waterford Bottom. Actually, it's Waterford Boulevard now, right? All you need is drive down there. Out there used to be bush on the left, on the right. I used to hate driving through there. Now, all the events we have at Botanical, imagine 6 years ago they had one. 6 years ago, there was no place that was the home for everything we wanted to do. Botanical Gardens. Yes, Cock. The buses, the electric buses, Corinne. Free university education again. Camille. The new buses. Wait, hold on. Elsa. The holistic Elsa repairs and rebuilds. Good. Correct. The vulnerable persons who were assisted with housing. Lizelle. The block program, the labor laws, the laws that were passed to enfranchise people and to benefit the workers. Child justice and child protection bill. New construction geriatric hospital. The reason I'm repeating y'all is because those who watch it might not be able to hear you, so I just repeating it. Mm-hmm. The garbage trucks. 1 second. What? Introduction of a national minimum wage at the height of the pandemic. Expansion of A&E at the hospital. Golden Square, Freedom Park. "13 consecutive quarters of growth." Yes, Antonio? Oystins Bay Garden. The Oystins rebuild, then the devastation, and then the Oystins fix up. All the activities at Oystins. Financial support for the important hotel and tourism sector at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, Richard? The effective response to the COVID outbreak in terms of the vaccines and also the new medical facility, state-of-the-art medical facility at Harrison Point. All of the care packages and literally feeding people during COVID. Yes, Daisy? The road repairs, in particular, Santia's expedited mill and pave repairs that has seen miles and miles of road getting fixed in Barbados. What's that? The refurbishment, but that come very low down. The refurbishment of Kensington into a state-of-the-art cricket ground. The revision of the school meals program. Let me throw in. The successful hosting of the 2024 ICC T20 World Cup finals in Barbados. Come, keep going. The amendment to the Health Services Act in connection with the overgrown lots that will save us some money, Chetwin. Yes, Ricardo. Commencement of the multi-million-dollar per head redevelopment project. One family program. The immediate response to the damage done to the fishing industry following the passage of Beryl. The cultural and education summer camp programs we'll be having. Yeah, Oh, yeah, the new money. So for all you who listening on, Cock is a fellow whose name is Wayne Bino. But if you even go down his gap and ask for Wayne Bino, nobody know who you're talking about, right? They know about Cock. So the moving Nelson and putting down the monument to the family and the redevelopment and beautification of Hero Square. Lizelle.
Tourism has surpassed its performance. It's done the best it's ever done in the last season, even surpassing the pandemic in previous years.
Record tourism arrivals exceeding pre-pandemic period. Yeah, Richard? Correct. So, wait. So the ashfall and the cleanup for the ashfall that was done in record time with government, private sector, everybody chipping in. Also, let's pat ourselves on the back. We stood up and took in all of those cruise ships to allow the people to get home during COVID when nobody else wanted them, and the spin-off benefit to Barbados. Yeah, Daisy? The introduction of the meals program in the schools. What? The trust loans for the businesses.
Unemployment has fallen to 7.9%. More people in Barbados are working than ever before.
More people in Barbados employed than ever before. Shanika, I want to hear you. You ain't give me nothing yet? The launch of the medicinal cannabis industry. Somebody said the new geriatric hospital. Yes, Cock. The what? The feed program. The feed program and the developments in the agricultural sector. The Adopt a Family program. Reconnecting and expanding our association with Africa. I paraphrasing. Wait, Nicole, you said one just now. The numerous upgrades to counteract the 23 downgrades that we had under the other government. That people, they're talking about we borrowing too much. We borrowing because people are actually willing to lend us. They did not borrow because nobody didn't want to lend them nothing. You do not lend, you don't, look, all that we got that body we know, right? That don't ever come and say, I want. They can't say, I want borrow. And you know they get paid back, you know. All of us in here know somebody like that, right? Imagine that you are a government in that position where nobody in the world wants to lend you money. And we've now gone full scale the other direction, that we are a sound investment and people believe that Barbados will pay its bills. Yes, Richard? Actually, generally, our increased relationship with our CARICOM brothers and sisters and the complete sibling relationship we now got with Guyana to the mutual and Suriname to the mutual benefit of both countries. You remember, look at the difference. When they came in, what's the first thing to do? Ever so welcome, wait for call, go home. And that cost all of us. That cost people who had apartments to rent. That cost all the businesses in town. That cost everything. Fairchild Street Market. Fairchild Street Market. The IADB project with the Barbados Water Authority that we were given grant money for. Grant money, not even a borrow, grant money. Huh? The income tax refunds. Wait. But I cannot believe that comes so low down. The transition from being a constitutional monarchy to a constitutional republic, being our own leaders of our own fate with our own homegrown president. During COVID, the bond that was put in place to allow persons who didn't have title to land to get water. So everybody in Barbados should be able to access water where it didn't happen before. Yes, Nicole? I am very disappointed in Annette and Udavine and Kimar. The renaming of the Fairchild Street bus terminal to the Granville Williams bus terminal. Making Rihanna a national hero. Wait, hold on, Wayne. The water tanks that the government gave to the households. Actually, let me talk about that water project from up in St. Philip to the Vineyard Water Project. Was that, Nisha? Resolving the issues with the residents. I remember that one well, I get abused for that. They called me up, Charles Griffith, and them called me up to a meeting up there at Town Hall. They didn't want to talk about nothing besides water. They blistered me, blue, black, blind, whatever. I can now go in St. John and hold my head up. Ricardo. $5 million transformation of the Oystins Bay Garden transformation. Yes. Renaming the Mighty Grinder Highway. Correct. Transition the sugar industry to being self-owned. Record foreign reserves coming out of a point where we had no foreign reserve cover. to now where we have record foreign reserves, able to sustain Barbados for months and months. The garbage bins, the upgrade of the airport runway, forget what I want to, upgrade, but how about you? The upgrade of the airport runway. African Exim Bank. Yeah. The expansion of the flights and airlines to Barbados, increased airlift to Barbados. I am calling that word. Wait, hold on. Correct. The brand new reservoirs that were put in while I was the minister, we came in and found reservoirs, some of them could not withstand a Category 1 hurricane. The one above up behind Pine Hill Dairy. What do you call that? Fort George. The one out Fort George that was in danger of collapsing. And we have a ton of new reservoirs. A lot of money went into water infrastructure and water security in Barbados. Lakes Folly. The fixing of the sewage plant at Lakes Folly, when we came in, we found the biggest pumpkins in processing tank number 1. I remember it clearly. I went in the tank and the man proudly gave me a pumpkin that was bigger than this lectern. That was growing out the processing unit. And I remember feeling to myself, how do I come out of this still looking good? And I said, my man, that's way too big for me and my family, right? I insist you share that among everybody here. But yes, pretty much the renovation of the sewage system, the building of the outfalls. If we're going to micro, we're talking about giving the people at the sewage plant, the lunchroom they have been clamoring for years. Yes. The fish markets, upgrading the fish markets. Yes, Antonio? The renewable energy drive. The 2030 vision to get Barbados 100% renewable energy by 2030. We may not get there by 2030, but we have way more solar penetration than almost anybody else per capita in this hemisphere. We have more solar, more electric vehicles and more electric buses per capita than anywhere else in the world. In the world. Look, the construction gateway to train artisans. You see how we forget the big ones? The Clean and Green program. And I want to publicly thank my boy Adrian Medic Ford. You cannot go, clap for him. You cannot go anywhere in Barbados without seeing one of the Clean and Green signs. Out in Coverley, where we had that old landfill, 4 acres of bush that was scary. It is now the largest Clean and Green site in Barbados. People play football there. They got about 10 picnic benches there. They got plants. It is a picnic spot. It could recreational spot. That is vision. Look at all of the overgrown and ugly public spaces and turn them into something beautiful and usable in your communities. That's a big one, the Clean and Green program. I want that. Correct. The mandatory facilities for persons in working in the sugar fields, in the sugarcane fields, and agricultural workers. The NTI program. Insurance policy for sanitation. The relocation of the vendors off the highway, that spot up in Newton, and other spots. So, wait, hold on. Look, we still got election to go here. So all I can tell you, I see Stafford there looking itchy. No problem, all right, relax. But Mr. Stafford, as you always say to me, it is important to set the record straight sometimes. So we will put together this, and we can circulate this list. And if you see something that's not on, add to it, and add to it, because the record must be set straight. The narrative must be reflective of reality. We, as a party, have a lot to be proud of, and we must not let people set the narrative for us. We have done more in 6 years than I dare say any government in the history of Barbados over a similar period. And no downgrades. So I am going to pause right here and thank you so much for your time. And I will allow the election to continue, and the electioning people do what electioning people do. So all of you, I want to thank you for helping me to set the record straight. As I said, we will compile, and this is a joint document coming out of the Christchurch East branch of the Barbados Labour Party for the rest of Barbados to read and appreciate. Thank you.